Gotham awaits! Welcome, Gothamites, to another episode of the Arkham Sessions. My name's Brian Ward. With me, as always, the psychologist of the superheroes, superheroines, and supervillains of Gotham City and beyond. She's Dr. Drea Letamendi. Hello, Drea.
Hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm okay.
We need to talk about what we need to talk about.
Do we need to talk about it?
Yes, we do.
Let's talk about it, Drea.
Okay, where do we begin?
Yesterday, we celebrated our wedding anniversary. We decided to do something fun, something that we had never really done together. I am something of an escape room enthusiast.
You've done over 100 escape rooms.
I have done. I'm hovering around that number. I'm not sure where.
And your success rate, and this is important data.
99.999%.
Okay, it's important that we name this.
Yeah.
You have successfully gotten out of nearly 100 escape rooms of all different types, of all different genres, of all different brands and companies. Would you say that you're experienced with escape rooms?
Yes.
Okay. I have done 3, I think. Conservatively speaking, maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah, I would say you're in that 4 or 5 range.
I have 100%. I am at 100% success rate. I am riding the coattails of you and your friends who have done this repeatedly and who are quite good at escape rooms.
Yeah.
So we do a Batman-themed escape room. Just the two of us. With confidence and excitement and eagerness. I will not lie. I went in thinking, I don't know escape rooms, but I know Batman. Like, this is not going to be necessarily like a breeze, but I felt confident that I would get out of the room.
It didn't require nearly as much inside information on Batman.
Correct.
As, say, the one we did last year in Las Vegas for my birthday with a couple of friends of mine, which was a Star Trek themed escape room.
Right.
And all of my knowledge of Star Trek came into play to get it out of that room. In time.
So we should probably say, I don't mind saying, this is the escape room at City Walk in California.
Universal City Walk. Escapology is the name of the company.
It's the one by Universal Studios, next to Toothsome's Chocolate Factory restaurant thingamajig.
Yeah.
This escape room is a... how do I want to put it? It's not like a podunk escape. This company is a nationally
They are
recognized
very clearly
company.
a well-oiled... You know what? I'm not going to say that. They are clearly a machine. They are clearly a company that has gotten the IP rights to several big properties, Batman being one of them, Scooby-Doo was another. They had a couple of other... major IP rooms, licensed rooms. And money has gone into creating these rooms.
And they are next to a theme park. So
for all intents and purposes, they're inside the theme park.
Right. So they have to be on top of their game. These are folks who are tourists.
I don't think that's true. I don't think they have to be on top of their game.
Well,
but yeah.
Let me just start with the positives.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give any spoilers in case some people
I'm pretty sure anyone worth their salt and investigation knows where this conversation's going.
I don't know, but I don't want to give spoilers about the clues, like about the solutions, case somebody wants to try the escape room.
Sure.
Because they are currently still running, at least as of today. But let me just name...
I mean, they're not a pop-up. They're not going anywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
Let me just say the positives. The theme, the MacGuffin, the whole scenario, what you're actually escaping from, what you're doing in Gotham City is super fun. It's a great idea. It was written well. It was designed well. Each of the rooms were very like visually interesting, immersive. The premise, the situations, the clues, the problems, the conflicts you're in, I thought they were all well written, all well designed in theory. It was fun at first. And very good as far as as a Batman fan. I found it to be really delightful and really in alignment with other Batman themed stories. So you shouldn't be surprised that it has to do with kind of like you're helping Batman and you're getting out of a situation that the rogues or that a particular rogue might have gotten you in. And it's kind of like a training simulation that goes wrong. Mm-hmm. That's about as much as I'll say about the story. Mm-hmm. And that I do have one problem. You're supposed to go into an area that's supposed to be Blackgate Penitentiary, and then there's all the villains like the Riddler and Two-Face and Clayface, and that should have been Arkham. I'm just confused as to why that wasn't Arkham, but that's the only real criticism I have on that piece.
Okay.
Why don't you go into the best you can the criticism about this room without giving spoilers about the actual solutions?
It's bad. It's bad.
Okay.
I'm just going to say it. It's bad. This is a company that might be a little too big for its britches. Too many employees, none of them paying attention to you.
And why is that important in an escape room? Because you're in the escape room without employees in there for the most part.
Yeah. Well, it's important that if something is going wrong in the room, someone should be monitoring your room from the outside and in order to help you. Typically, my group and we are anti-help. We do not like clues. We do not like hints. We certainly don't want you to give them to us without us asking. That happened once.
Yep.
And I felt like we were making pretty good time. We'd already solved 4 or 5 puzzles. We'd gone into a second room when we suddenly heard a chime that said something to us. And we were like, what's that all about? Why are you doing that? However, when we got to another puzzle that we had very clearly solved, none of these puzzles were particularly hard. It's built at a theme park, I think, with the understanding that families are going to come do this, people who are not experienced in escape rooms. There is no reason why this escape room should have given us problems.
Well, and there were 2 of us, which is the minimum.
The minimum,
you
yeah.
need.
Yeah, 2 to 6.
So we were moving through. I thought we were in the first half. We were kind of going. We
were going on
pace.
a really great clip. There was no question about it. We were getting out of this room. And then the puzzle stopped working. The things that are supposed to be unlocked by solving the puzzles were not unlocked.
Did not work.
And then we're like, this makes no sense. We have solved this puzzle. There is no other solution to this puzzle. We then asked for help. What are we doing wrong? Well, in some escape rooms, you'll have someone on the other end on a speaker system, something where they'll talk to you. They'll say, what are you asking? What help do you need?
Yeah. You
say, well, we've done this and this, and they go, okay, you're on the right track, or here's where you need to look or think about looking. They don't give you the solutions to the puzzles, but they help you.
Right.
We pressed that button and waited for a solid minute before anyone even reached back out to us.
And
so you're in a timed room.
Yes. So we lost time waiting for them to give us help. The other problem is that the way this room gives you help is by making you realize it's on a screen, that they've typed a hint
Yeah.
on a screen. So
Yeah.
you have to go back to the first room and look at a screen.
Yeah.
And it's done in a way, I get it. They're trying not to break the illusion or try not to break the story. So it's kind of done in a way that you're getting clues from the Bat computer.
Yeah.
But let me just say, it's almost like table talk at a D&D game or at a role-playing tabletop game. I would have preferred they just broke the story, just, like interrupted us just to say like, oh, looks like you do have the solution. Just wiggle something, move something a bit.
Yeah.
I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, don't give anything away.
Yeah.
We had solved it. We had solved it properly. Here's the problem. The person who was monitoring it did not see what our solution was, simply gave us the first clue for that thing.
Right.
And we're like, that makes no sense. We've done that.
And
then
it
they
steered
gave
us away,
Yeah.
and we ended up changing the solution
It was
because
after
of the hint.
we were like, we've done it. And then the second hint said something else that sounded definitive. And we went, well, that makes no sense based on this puzzle, but okay, we'll play it your way.
Right.
If that's what it is, then we'll do this. We then took the puzzle pieces down, put them back up in the order in which their hint suggested it needed to be done, even though it made no sense.
Right. And it was
we're
wrong.
like, nothing is happening. And then their third hint to us just sent us back into a rage because it was the exact same order in which we had already solved that puzzle. And then we kind of yelled inside the room, what are we doing? This makes no sense.
Right.
And then the fourth hint that they gave us was wiggle it around a little.
Yeah, like,
I'm sorry. It wasn't even that clear. It was move it around a little.
Oh, that's not helpful.
Move it around is not
helpful.
going to help because we had already been moving pieces and shifting things.
Yeah.
So like this hint makes no sense whatsoever.
So think of this as puzzle pieces that we solved. We had the original solution, which was correct in the right places.
Yes, no problem.
And it did not unlock the
What it was
door to the
supposed-
next room. And let me just say how critical that was. That was going to get us into the next room. So
That was going to get us into the last room.
We lost so much time. Anyway, enough of the ranting, but I want to say,
And by the way, that's not the only puzzle that was like that. There were
there were issues.
several other things that were set up wrong, and not just wrong, or it didn't work properly to the degree that when the room ended and we failed to escape because we're wasting time on puzzles we've already solved.
Right.
We failed to escape. And I would say that one puzzle probably cost us 5 to 6 minutes.
Or longer because of how back and forth we ended up going, because we had the original solution pretty early.
Pretty quick. Then we got into the next room and things just went bonkers.
Yeah.
Here's one thing you can expect. If you're going to a good escape room, if you win, someone comes in, congratulates you, talks you through, can I help you with anything? Do you need any questions about puzzles that, maybe you didn't solve, maybe the other person solved?
Right.
Maybe like, do you guys want us to walk you through the room? And then you walk through the room and you're like, yeah. Oh, that was a good one. Or that was, whatever. Or if you don't get out, someone immediately comes in the door. Oh, you didn't, it's all right. You didn't get it. You didn't, too bad. Do you want to know what you missed, what you didn't? No one came to our room.
The time ran out, and
No
we
one came.
stood in this failed bonkers third room where the Joker had clearly is going to be the Joker, clearly got us, and then no one came in.
Have you ever been to like a doctor's appointment or something where like they put you in a room and then you're like, I need to leave this room for a second, and you kind of feel bad, but you open the door quietly and you like peek out into the lobby area to be like, can I do this? I did that in an escape room place where I'm like, are you guys, are we supposed to just leave?
And they were surprised. They're like, oh, where did you come from?
Yeah.
We came from one of 3 escape rooms you're running in this place. But let me just say the thing
there were 8 people crowded around the desk when I went.
I know.
Like none of
there
them
were
were
lots of
watching the
staff.
monitors.
Let me just say the thing I need to say, which is I did not get out of a Batman escape room, and I am still feeling the injury to my ego that this happened. I know why it happened. It was a mechanical issue. It was poorly designed. Well, I wouldn't say poorly designed. I would say not well maintenanced. And I could tell why, because these folks are they're not dotting their I's and crossing their T's. This place is sloppy.
This person came in. I had questions. I was like, explain why this didn't do what it was supposed to. Oh, well, it should have been yada, yada. Okay, well, that doesn't make any sense. Explain why this didn't work. Explain why this did. Take us through the third room, because we got through very little of the actual third room. Take us through that third room. And that person didn't even know the order in which things were supposed to unlock. They were clearly wrong about their own room. So I'm like, we got to go. We got to get out of here. We got to go before Drea loses her mind. And you did. You lost your mind. We shared a margarita afterward.
We had to have a long debrief, and we did some self-regulation. We were just trying to figure out what went wrong and not blame ourselves.
Yeah.
We were in quite a mood. This isn't to say you shouldn't try this escape room if you're LA based or you're visiting LA and you're in Universal Studios. I truly hope we did give some feedback, and I truly hope that Escapology keeps
at $50 a room, or at $50 per person, though. It's on the higher end of a lot of escape rooms for what kind of cooperation you're going to get.
And you have
an
IP that is very well recognized, and you should you should honor this IP a little bit better, with better maintenance and just better care and diligence about how you're running these rooms. Very disappointing. I hope they fix it. I'm not going back there. I'm not recommending it.
You just said you're not recommending it.
I'm not recommending it, but I'm not personally recommending it. But I am saying I truly hope that they improve it. That's it. Okay, so that's what we did on our holiday weekend. I do have, though, a much more positive note that I just want to mention. A member of our Discord gave us a shout out, and I just want to read this to you, Brian, because it's quite uplifting and probably a good place to transition here. Anne Scully, who is a longtime listener of the Arkham Sessions and has been a member of the Discord, introduced themselves and said, hello, everyone. I've been listening to the Arkham Sessions. They combine both things I absolutely adore, psychology and Batman. I've listened to this podcast about Batman the Animated Series repeatedly. Brian and Dre have become part of my nighttime routine. I appreciate all the hard work you put into your content. So that was really nice to get.
Is this another case where they fall asleep to your dulcet tones?
No, I didn't get the sense. I got the sense that this was like a way to...
No, I agree.
We talk about good sleep hygiene. You got to have something that's soothing and not overly dysregulating. And I think it sounds like we're a part of that, I'm
just bringing up the fact that a number of people have said that they enjoy falling asleep to your voice. So
I'm not mad at that.
No.
I also want to add that Anne Scully on our Discord shared a picture of a Labubu that she's customized to be Batman. So if you don't know what Labubu is, these are little monster creatures.
I literally just learned 2 days ago.
So they're you get them from Pop Mart. They're kind of hard to find now.
Oh, they're very specifically to a certain store?
I think that the main distributor or the main store is Pop Mart, but you can get them on eBay, and I think you can find them in other places. They are collectible little furry creature monster like plushies. Mm-hmm. They're very, very cute, and you can they have this little clip, and you can attach them to your purse or your wallet or your belt. And if you have not joined the Discord and you're curious about this is your incentive. Again, the Discord's free. This is the cutest little Batman Labubu that I've seen. I've only seen one, and it's this one. And it's just, you just have to see it for yourself. So thank you, Anne Scully, not only for customizing your own Batman Labubu, but for sharing it on our Discord. That was very sweet of you to do.
Brightened the weekend. after
for sure,
such
brighten
a
the
tragic
weekend. And the third thing that I have, before, well, why don't we do this at the end of the show? Because I have my nominations.
Stay tuned to the end of the show where we're going to talk about the 5. Are there 5?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So I should remind listeners that a couple of episodes ago, you said that you already had them in mind. You already knew what you wanted the 5 options to be. You and I had not yet discussed them. And then from then to now, we still have not discussed them. I do not know what the 5 different properties are that you are talking about discussing.
They may or may not have changed since I last announced them. Or I last announced that I knew of them.
Yeah, okay.
Because I may or may not have forgotten 1 or 2 of them.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not at all confused. But at the end of this episode, we will talk about the 5 different properties. It could be an extension of Harley Quinn. It could be going back to X-Men. It could be any number of things that we've put in previous incarnations of our polls, but ultimately we're going to release 5 different titles. If you want to hear us analyze those 5 titles, you go to our Discord and you vote on those titles. The top 3 will then move on to a finals round, and that will be held at our Patreon. patreon.com/Arkham Sessions. And that is where we will determine what we cover after season 1 of Harley Quinn. Stay tuned to the end of the episode. Speaking of Harley Quinn, we have returned. The last episode we covered was Bensonhurst. That's the one where she went back home and found out that her parents continue to betray her, her father in particular. And Ivy was captured. The gang has broken up. And now Ivy is sort of on her own, although she does have Frank the Plant. And they are off to rescue Ivy. They need the help of...
Harley has Frank the Plant.
I'm sorry, Harley has, yes. Yeah. Harley has Frank the Plant and is off to rescue Ivy. And... they need more help. So they go to recruit all the members of the gang. So again, we're talking Clayface, Dr. Psycho, King Shark. And then their landlord has decided to join the team.
And Harley has to, it's a montage of Harley trying to recruit them back, and they've all moved on. So they've gotten other types of jobs. Now, Clayface has become a henchperson for the Riddler and seems to be enjoying himself. King Shark.
Riddler has the perfect amount of drama and flair.
Oh, it's a nice pairing.
So, yeah.
King Shark works at like the Apple store, is doing some tech support.
Yep.
And Dr. Psycho is basically a carnival act, like doing some mentalism and palm reading and doing some psychic stuff when he can do those things. So he's probably making a good coin from that. So Harley is just trying to get the gang together, and she knows that she needs their help. She's unable to infiltrate this giant facility where Ivy is being kept prisoner. Now we know as the audience that it's not just a prisoner situation, that Scarecrow is performing these experiments on her and keeping her in this lab.
He's removing her pheromones in order to be used for other things. He's also used her own blood and her own pheromones to create a neurotoxin that will actually instill fear in her, because as we know, Poison Ivy cannot be poisoned. She is immune to his fear toxin. So he creates a batch specifically for her, and she goes into hysterics.
She does pretty well for herself. I mean, she manages to escape.
She's writhing around.
Least, well, the first time she escapes at least once, and she's been able to find a a loose a plant that has blown in from the wind, so she's able to use all of her resources to do the best that she can. But ultimately, it's this specific genetically engineered toxin that he does sedate her with. And so the gang does get into the facility, but now they have to enter her mind in the same way that they've done in a previous episode with Harley.
In a previous episode this season, with Harley.
Yeah,
I mean,
so it's a callback.
They've now done this twice.
So Dr. Psycho has the ability to gather everyone and enter the person, in this case, Poison Ivy's psyche, and try to use that.
They need to localize and destroy Ivy's greatest fear. And they think they know what it is each time they come across something. There's a giant wood chipper that is bloodily killing trees that are trying to run from it. They discover that can't possibly be her biggest fear. They then discover a little piece of information that I do think helps when we talk about Poison Ivy, and that's that her father is particularly. I want to be very careful. I don't know what the abuse situation is, but that guy was not a kind father. He doesn't appear to have been physically abusive, but he's certainly demeaning toward her. He's a bit strict. He is. He definitely is portrayed as a bit of a monster. In Ivy's past,
and a redhead.
Yeah, he had that red to brown rust color.
Do you not claim the
I
red
do.
to brown
I do. I mean,
rust?
we know that she's a redhead because she's got like pure red hair, but so theoretically, unless she's dyeing it on a regular basis with some sort of eco-friendly dye, which I don't think is happening, then yeah, she had to get it from somewhere. It appears to have been from him. Got to be a redhead. It's understood then he is not her greatest fear, and they keep moving on until eventually a being with a scythe, very much looking like death, comes along and attacks the gang. They are able to incapacitate Death enough to look under the hood, and it's Harley Quinn staring at herself. So Harley is Ivy's greatest fear at this point. And we're not sure what that means in this moment, but this does come on the heels of several episodes of betrayal and abandonment on the part of Harley. And so we've got to think that it goes, that is really to blame for Ivy's current take on her presumably best friend. Mm-hmm. I want to ask right off the bat, because I think we knew what we were going to find in the robes of death, but give me your take on that moment. As a psychologist, if you find out that thematically your greatest fear is represented by your best friend cloaked in death's garments and carrying a scythe, attacking all of your friends, what do you take from that?
Yeah. Well, what I really enjoyed about that scene or that part of the show was that it was almost like a House of Horrors or a dungeon crawl. It's the crew kind of going through and facing a creature or monster or, serious threat one after the other. They end up on this realization that Harley is the most frightening thing in Ivy's mind. So a lot of trauma psychologists will say this, and for the most part, I agree with it. When we're working with clients who have a lot of avoidance and isolation, and they withdraw a lot, that they'll tell us that their they're very scared that something will happen, usually socially. And a lot of times we'll say, the worst thing has actually already happened, or at least the thing that you're scared of has already happened. And I think this is the case with Ivy, that she has already been, as you mentioned, let down and disappointed and felt just very injured by this other person, by her very close friend, somebody she considered her best friend. And so what's carried in her psyche and what weighs her down is this idea that she can't rely on someone who she cares about a lot. That person has abandoned her. That person doesn't reciprocate the same care through behavior. So I think that's important to note. Now, Harley is just realizing this for the first time, which is kind of, it's just very elucidating. It's very like she's kind of revealing that at times her psychology it's that friend who kind of forgets or isn't reliable or who truly, truly cares, but may not realize that their friend is holding these grievances or feeling a certain way, feeling something's unresolved. And it's just like this interesting avoidance or forgetfulness or really not taking it as seriously. And I think this is when Harley realizes how serious, for one, how close and how important that they are, their friendship is, but just how much she's hurt Ivy.
Yeah. Which is sort of an extension of the same thing, where it's like, it's one of those cases where some people have real fear of commitment because they have been hurt in the past by the person and they don't want to deal with that again, or they're too afraid of getting hurt again. And Ivy is now putting herself in a position where I don't know if she knows if she can trust again, because her best friend in the world has continuously hurt her time and time again, just in the last 3 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes. So she is learning that trauma for sure. So I guess what you're saying is that her greatest fear has already happened. It is what Ivy has done. So how does that relate to, since we're talking about Scarecrow, how does that then relate to, say, phobias? If someone says their greatest fear is spiders, or my greatest fear is dying alone, that's clearly not happened yet. So
okay. So
where
really
do
depends.
Those things come from?
Well, it really depends. And I mentioned that the trauma treatment usually will center around this idea that a worst fear or a constant concern or worry or a persistent avoidance of closeness is a fear of something that has actually already been experienced.
Yeah.
So an injury, a rupture, an abuse, that's really what we're talking about. Now, traumas and phobias and other types of fears are handled a little bit differently. A lot of times, there has been something in their lives,
Indiana Jones
a
falling
bee attack, a snake attack, something that
on a train.
It's something that makes that fear reasonable, but a lot of times there isn't a rational explanation.
It could just be an ick factor, like people who don't like spiders are like, I just don't like the look of them. They creep me out. I just don't like this. Or, people who have never even encountered a snake before, but sees a snake on TV, they don't like snakes.
Now, I can tell you that I have a very strong fear of heights and fear of flying.
Yes.
And when I was little, I want to say probably about 6 or 7, my family went to the Grand Canyon. At that time, I was fearful of a lot of things. Like I was just kind of a timid, anxious kid anyway. So I'd say I had a predisposition for phobias. But I was that kid who, when we were kind of checking out the Grand Canyon, there was a place on a cliff where tourists go that I remember there was like a railing and we were all kind of leaning on the railing or walking along the railing. And my dad said, be really careful. You're too small. You might actually slip through. And I will never forget that feeling of I'm too little, I might slip through, and untrusting, like, oh, the people who made this railing, who created this tourist place, did they know that there would be this small child here? Like, I just started to mistrust everything. And believe you me, I was in the car the rest of the trip. Like, I can pinpoint when that particular phobia started to develop.
Yeah.
It became real. It became like, you might, and I can never get the image of me falling down through that railing into the Grand Canyon out of my mind.
Wow.
So, in some cases, we're a little bit off topic, but in some cases there is some origin to a phobia or a fear.
I don't think we're off topic. We're still talking about Scarecrow and what he does to you artificially versus what you have potentially done for yourself or done to yourself. Right. You know, I think it applies.
Yeah. So, I mean, for Ivy, it's reasonable that her biggest fear is another injury, another painful experience with a friend who has let her down before.
Yeah.
And that's different than her father. You know how they said, wait, it's interesting, her father isn't her worst fear. Well, because her father's not a threat anymore. He's not in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Smart. When they figure this out and then get her out of, or they all leave her mind, they are then faced with the reality of the dangers of the outside world. And the whole time, Harley can't get it out of her head. She perseverates on the fact that she is her bestie's worst fear. And Ivy doesn't want to talk about it. She doesn't want to discuss it. It's not the time. Instead, we have to go save the day. And Harley just can't stop thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Now, and they're in this wild chase.
Yes.
They're going after the Scarecrow in, I guess the Scarecrow has a bunch of trucks, which is from the facility, and they're on the
Harley Quinn highway. Yes.
So this is a road that
it's
the
basically
city approved?
it basically looks like a 1-to-1 scale Hot Wheels racetrack, complete with the loop-de-loops and just absurd drops in the road and gigantic hills, and it's even colored red and pink and bright colors. There's a weapons cache that if you go, if you jump a ramp, you can then get like an RPG launcher. And the reason this exists is when she was holding Gotham hostage, they allowed her to design her own freeway, and they used taxpayer dollars to actually build it. And it all concludes at a gigantic statue of Harley. And in that moment, in order to put her own ego and her own personal mission aside to help her friend, she uses that RPG launcher to fire at her statue's head, which then explodes and falls down, stopping Scarecrow from achieving his endgame.
Well, and there is a moment in the high-speed car chase where Ivy does finally answer her, because this whole time, as you're saying, Harley's kind of persistently asking her, why is she her worst fear, and what's going on in their relationship. And
I have that audio. Would you like me to play it for you?
I was going to ask you to please play where they're on top of semi trucks, and Ivy finally gives Harley the opportunity to ask her this question.
Yep, let's play it now.
What about now? Fine. You want to know what my biggest fear is? Finally allowing myself to count on someone and then having them ditch me.
But I was still planning on helping you.
You were my one friend, and I asked you for one favor. But instead you ditched me for the Joker who treats you like I thought you could change, but I was wrong. You still live your entire life based on what he might think.
And so while it's not the best situation, I mean, it's very high risk situation, this is a really critical conversation. Both of them are able to be a little honest with each other. But what's about to happen next, and what I'm predicting, is that this is a very big rupture. Like, they need to work on rebuilding trust and rebuilding emotional closeness.
Yeah.
And I know at this time they're best friends. They're really close. They're each other's biggest support system. And, in the future, I know that relationship gets even closer. But what I was thinking
We're not
about...
allowed to talk about that.
I know, we're not allowed to talk about that. What I was thinking about... So the first thing I want to say is, of course, there has to be work. And I'm going to relate this to a couple, like a romantic couple, because a lot of the psych research around romantic couple rupture and resolution also applies to friendships, because this is really about interpersonal effectiveness. And what we need from these two is the rebuilding of emotional safety. And that doesn't happen by avoiding each other. That happens through real conversations and real attunement. And there's actually a man by the name of John Gottman. Have we talked about John Gottman before? This might be our first Gottman.
I do not recognize the name John Gottman.
Well, so just now I sent you a picture of him. If you just check your inbox there.
Okay.
While you open that up, I'll say that John Gottman, since this is the first time we're talking about him, is a very world-renowned, very recognized, highly respected researcher and clinician who helps people understand how to manage and maintain marital stability.
Okay, so I'm looking. He looks like someone who would do this for a living.
He looks like a delightful man.
Why do I have to see him though? Why did you send him to me?
I just want you to notice his wonderful leather cap.
Oh, okay.
For you to get a sense of who he is. Also, he's been in this business for over 50 years. This man is pretty legit.
Okay.
And we don't have time to go into the full history of this man's work in psychology, but I just want to mention that he's like one of the first psychologists to author and put forth into the public all of these helpful rules and frameworks and this advice for helping couples stay strong and stay married in particular. So he's the one who writes about principles for making marriages work, for, what is the best cure for relationships? How do you, what's the love prescription? These are kinds of the names of his books and things like that. Mm-hmm. Something that stood out for me is that I'm familiar with the golden rule in relationships specific to Gottman's work, and this is the 5-to-1 rule. Have you ever heard of the 5-to-1 rule in relationships?
No.
It's actually pretty predictable, but what I'll say about it is what Gottman discovered with his partner actually is that the difference between happy and unhappy couples is the balance between positive and negative interactions during conflict. And the specific ratio, which they defined as the magic ratio, is 5-to-1. This means that for every negative interaction during conflict, a stable and happy marriage has to have 5 or more positive interactions.
So to define what that means during conflict.
Yeah, so it's important. It's such a good question.
Like in the middle of a fight, we're supposed to have 5 good things happen?
More or less. This doesn't mean that for every fight you have to go to Disneyland 5 times. Like, this doesn't mean you have to have a positive experience. I guess you could.
Okay.
I guess you could. But what it means is that you're, it's not necessarily you're seeking and chasing really hard to find positive experiences like the ones that are unreachable, but you're finding in the moment achievable, reachable, positive interactions. And I mean simply, a genuine compliment or an observation, a hug.
How do you do that? Like how would he suggest and how would you interpret the best way to do that in the middle of the conflict, though. Like if you say
I get what you're saying. It can be kind of, I don't want to say it's subtle because the other person has to hear it and see it and experience it. But so one example they give is like so even when you're having a conflict or an argument, you're not on the same page, don't stonewall. Like, don't walk away, don't avoid, don't minimize, like stay interested. What that means is listen with curiosity, ask questions. Okay, what did you mean by, I can tell you this was really upsetting you and I just want to understand where that came from. Or I can see that I missed something really important and I'm mad too, but help me understand what I missed, right? It doesn't mean you're discounting your own emotions. You're not rolling on the floor. You're not like, being overly appeasing. You're not fawning. We got to be careful with that, right? We're not just, you're engaged in the conversation. So that's what we mean by positive interactions. I mentioned hugs. So for some people, affection is really important. So that means showing some kind of physical closeness, holding hands, touching someone's shoulder. And this is all right now in the context of romantic partners. So sometimes a kiss or a hug or something that's more intimate, right?
But it's important to know your partner's love language, because if you go in for a hug,
don't try to kiss on someone. Sure, absolutely.
If that's not what they want in that moment, you got to at least read the room.
Absolutely, yeah.
Otherwise, that positive interaction becomes a
negative one, yes. Right? Think of your boundaries. So what are other positive interactions? Find opportunities for agreement. We can agree that we certainly agree that we're both mad, right? But what are the other, we can agree that we both care about each other and we want to find a resolution. We can express that we're looking for an alliance. We're looking for something in the argument that can keep us in this relationship. Sometimes, I know people don't like to do this, but you can apologize. Maybe you're apologizing for things that you do want to acknowledge and take accountability for.
Okay, but you're right. So that's the thing though. And that's the other thing you got to look out for. Don't fall into the trap of, I'm sorry if you feel this way. That is not a positive.
Do not apologize for someone else. Apologize for yourself. You're right. You're right. Another positive thing you can do is make jokes. So yeah, I know. I see you reacting. You have to be super careful. These are all traps. What Gottman says is sometimes playfulness, silliness, finding moments to laugh together can help us through a conflict. And they also caution: remember to find a way to joke around that maintains respect and appreciation. Don't put the other person down. Don't punch down with your jokes, that sort of thing. If another person is hurting, don't make jokes about them hurting. So yes, you have to be really effective in your skills with some of these things. But ultimately, the Gottman method is asking us to pay close attention to the ratio, how many negative things are happening in the interaction and how many positive things are happening in the interaction. And the reason that they suggest you're mindful of this is that relationships that have an overabundance of negative experiences ultimately do not last. Okay, going back to Harley and Ivy, where I'm going with this is recently, even during arguments, especially during arguments, they're doing a lot of negative interactions. They're not building in positive interactions. And I feel like this last conversation was one of the first times we finally saw both of them engage in some positive interactions with each other.
Yeah.
And if we are going to see them really repair their relationship, this is what we need to see.
And Harley giving in and using that opportunity at the end to blow up her own statue as a positive interaction, because it's showing sacrifice and a willingness to have a little give and take. I should say, just for those wondering, because I'm listening to this method and I'm finding a lot of different ways that someone could misinterpret it. It's not necessarily a positive that you landed a good point in the conversation. Like, you feeling good about that moment is not necessarily a positive. I just need people to understand that the word positive needs to apply to both parties. This is that's why I can sense that this is probably maybe even a little more difficult to achieve unless the both of you are thinking through it as you're going, right?
This is why the Gottmans often will say, be masters of your marriage. Like, this is not these aren't easy. And this is just one particular principle, but these are not easy skills. These aren't things that are going to come easy for a lot of us. But you're correct. This is an approach that does require a lot of thoughtfulness and a lot of second guessing. You don't want to make a mistake. But I do think even saying like, hey, I'm going to try something. I actually do that with my colleagues, other clinicians and other folks that I work with. When, for instance, we talk about things like psychological safety, I'll just say, this isn't a magic trick. This isn't a psychic trick. I'll actually say, hey, I'm going to practice some psychological safety and ask a tough question. Or I'm going to practice learner safety and ask something that isn't making sense to me right now because I'm new to this. So I think even just showing yourself like, hey, I want you to know I care about you and I want to hug you. Like it's a consent and a checking in about, can this be a positive thing in this moment around this conflict?
Yeah.
And that goes a long way because the person could say, no, hard stop, no.
Yeah.
But at least the effort probably made a difference.
It's a good tip.
That's different than, as I said before, stonewalling or coming in yelling. You want to start gently, you want to maintain gently, you want to finish gently.
Yeah. This is good information. This is good. I like when you bring stuff like this to the table. Practical, real world use, it's, I'm not looking forward to trying it out,
Why not?
with you or anyone else. But it's good to have in my head, constantly be thinking of what positives have already happened versus how many negatives in this conflict.
I mean, this is why I think this show is super helpful and why I like the Harley Quinn show is that they're human. No one's perfect. They're far from it. But you can see glimpses of humanity and compassion and effort there, and it makes us feel like, okay, if Harley can do it, I can do it for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I have an announcement, and it has to do with our next show.
Okay.
So, are you ready?
The time has come.
The time has come. Are you ready to hear about my...
What 5 shows or movies or whatever you want to cover next? Yes, I'm dying to know. What are we covering next?
These are my nominations.
Can I veto any of these as we go?
No.
Okay.
You cannot. Wow. But you can add.
Okay.
You can add to these. At one point, we had up to 8, I think, in our round 1.
Yeah.
So
but we did multiple rounds of voting. Yeah.
Okay. So in no particular order, the first one is called Alien Earth. This is the live action series that will drop on FX.
The new one.
Yeah, in August.
Okay.
I don't know a lot about it, but I do like Alien, and it will be the first time we kind of really delve into live action horror. So
I have a personal love-hate relationship with Alien and the Xenomorphs. I don't know how I'm going to feel about this particular series, but okay. All right.
Okay. Second one, Andor, which we actually have part of the first season.
Yes, we did an episode of season 1, and that covered a couple of episodes. We recorded a second episode. It has not gone up yet. And then we would have to do the finale. But are you talking about potentially doing like season 1 and 2 together as part of a
I think so. We certainly have
show?
we have to make sure we cover season 1 because that's the way this works.
Okay.
So we would do Andor season 1 and season 2.
That's a good one. Okay.
So the complete series of Andor.
Sure.
I'm putting Gargoyles back on the list because it's a fan favorite.
A lot of people ask for it.
I have not seen this series. I've only seen one episode.
Neither of us have seen this
I'm
show.
really interested. Ironheart comes out June 24th
That's
on
the new Marvel
Disney+.
series?
Yes. So it's Riri, the character who plays Ironheart that we met in Wakanda. What is the second movie?
Wakanda Forever.
Forever, yes. I'm sorry, Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever is the title of that Marvel movie.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like a spin-off from that film.
Okay.
X-Men Season 2. So we would continue.
Go back to the mutants.
Exploring the original X-Men animated series from the 90s.
Okay.
Which we had a lot of fun with. Those are they.
All right. Good list. All right. So if I recall correctly, it's called Alien Earth, Andor, and we would cover the complete series. Then Gargoyles Season 1. Then what was the fourth one? Ironheart, right. Sort of the heir apparent to the Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
And then the fifth one was going back to X-Men, the animated series. All right, cool. Where can folks vote on those?
So for now, we're going to put the nominations in the Discord after this episode drops.
Yep.
And
they'll have 2 weeks to vote.
Yeah.
Because in our next episode, we will announce the top 3 out of that. So you've got 2 weeks between now and the next episode to vote. We will announce the top 3. And from there, you will go to patreon.com/Arkham Sessions, and a $3 donation will get you the opportunity to vote for what we cover next.
I just want to remind folks that the Discord for the Arkham Sessions is free.
Yep.
You can find the link on the Arkham Sessions Instagram bio page, or you can go to my website, Dr. Drea's Psychology, and you'll find it on the Arkham Sessions page. It's a totally free community. You and I also participate in that community. It's the starting point for the nominations. It doesn't mean you'll have final say.
Yep.
For that, you do need to go to the Patreon.
Yeah. So beyond your website, drdreapsychology.com, and our Discord, where can folks find you online?
You can find me not at Escapology because I'm refusing to do escape rooms there. You can find me online, Instagram, and other places at Dr. Drea's Psychology.
You can find me. I am at B_Ward028 on Instagram. You can find us both on Instagram at The Arkham Sessions. Email us at arkhamsessions@gmail.com. Come follow us on Facebook. Follow our friends over at Fanbase Press and all that good stuff. Got a couple of folks to thank for their donations to our Patreon. Folks that need to be shouted out. We've got Bert Compton, Lindsay B, and Jamiroquai J. Thank you for your contributions, helping making this episode and all of our episodes possible. You can get your shout out by going to patreon.com/Arkham Sessions and joining the $5 tier that gets your name shouted out each month on the podcast. And really helps us out. So thanks for that. Till next time, Drea. I'm Brian Ward.
I'm Dr. Drea Letamendi.
And together we are
The Arkham Sessions.
How to give a speech. You put your thesis statement at the motherfucking top.